Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar today on rethinking waste. My name is Deep Chahal and I'm a project manager with Synergy Foundation. I work with businesses across the province to assess and improve their environmental performance, as well as create educational webinars on the topic of sustainability. Before we begin, I'd like to share a little bit about Synergy Foundation. Since 2013, our nonprofit has been driving innovation in green business, circular economy initiatives, and food security programs. Through key projects like BC Green Business and Project Zero, we've supported hundreds of businesses in making these sustainable shifts. And we're excited to have you here as part of the Squamish webinar series, which is funded by the province of BC's Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program. So let's begin. On the agenda today, we have a short introduction to circular economy, how it compares to the linear economy model, and what are some of its benefits. Following that, we will dive into understanding the waste that we generate by looking at its composition from large-scale studies, as well as the potential for diverting that waste. Finally, we'll go over how to assess your waste and learn how to rethink waste, whether that is using waste as a resource, cutting disposal costs by diverting your waste, or adding value to waste and finding new revenue streams. We will also go over case studies of businesses and hear from a local business owner about the actions they have taken to reimagine their waste. So let's start by looking at the problem that circular economy is trying to address. And that is, in 2020, the mass of human-made materials officially outweighed all living biomass. This means that everything we produced, from buildings, cars, plastics, now surpasses the combined weight of all plants, animals, and marine life on Earth. This statistic underscores what we need to rethink our consumption and waste habits. And this calculation only includes objects that are in use, so it doesn't include waste. With waste included, human-made mass outweighed biomass in 2013. We know that we're extracting far too many virgin resources, some of which are destined for pollution with our current linear economy model. We need to decouple economic growth and natural resource consumption. Currently, most businesses operate in a linear economy. The traditional linear economy can be described by the phrase take, make, and waste, where resources are extracted, used, and discarded. This model leads to massive waste and environmental degradation. In this example that we're seeing on the screens, we have most modern synthetic textiles, which are petroleum-based products. So that involves extracting fossil fuels to make the fibers. Next, the synthetic fibers are used to make clothes, which is a part of the production phase. The clothes are shipped globally. They're then consumed by customers, and at the end of the life, they're discarded and end up in our landfills. So that is under the current linear economy model. In the circular economy model, raw materials and manufactured goods are designed to remain in the system. To do this, we can use processes like reduced consumption, reuse and repair, redistribution, reconditioning, and recycling, all of which are powered by renewable energy. These are the 5 key re-entry mechanisms of circular economy. As you can see in the diagram, the inner loops are smaller. These areas of circularity are prioritized first as they keep the goods and materials in use at their highest value. Under reduce, we talk about using efficient consumption and production processes. Using those, waste can be reduced before it's generated. Reuse and repair. Through continued reuse, maintenance, and repair, a product's useful life can be extended. Under redistribution, through methods like resale and donation, a product can continue to provide value throughout its useful life instead of becoming waste. Recondition, products can be restored to like new condition by a manufacturer and redistributed to consumers. And finally, we have recycle. Products at the end of life are separated into their base materials, which re-enter the production process to create new products. Is generally seen as the last option as it is the most energy intensive and requires major changes to the goods. When all other re-entry mechanisms have been exhausted, recycling is utilized. Nearly 93% of all products and materials are destined for landfill, incineration, or left to break down in our waterways and on land at the end of life. This means that all products, materials, and resources in existence, only a small percentage is re-entering the economy. So why shift to the circular economy model now? Well, there are two very compelling reasons for it. Number one is to meet climate targets. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, stated that to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, we need to cut emissions by nearly half by 2030. The circular economy offers promising opportunities to get us headed in that right direction. Studies have shown that increasing circularity to just 17% can reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by 39%. And the second reason for shifting circular economy is the economic potential. According to Accenture, the circular economy is a $4.5 trillion opportunity. What we consider waste can be a resource with significant untapped value. If we can shift our perspective of what waste is, we have the opportunity to create new jobs, create new businesses, and strengthen the local economy. We can ID efficiencies that lower operating costs for businesses and create cost savings through reducing waste to landfill, reduced water consumption, and reduced energy usage. Okay, so let us start with the very basics with the definition of what is considered waste. According to some widely accepted regulatory frameworks by the United Nations Environmental Program and Environmental Protection Agency, waste refers to any material or object that is no longer useful, needed, or wanted and is discarded. And waste has three key characteristics. It is non-recyclable, so items are not suitable for reuse or recycling by the user. It is unwanted by the generator, or you could say the producer no longer values the material. And three, subject to management. So this includes materials that must be handled properly to prevent harm, that is, hazardous materials. But before we go delve any further, I would like you to take a guess at what are some of the primary waste streams for businesses. Feel free to pause the video and take a moment to think about it. So waste varies by industry, but these are some of the primary waste streams according to a paper published in the Waste Management Journal. Packaging waste is pretty universal. If you are a business that sells a product or receives shipments, you probably have some of this waste stream. Food is a big waste stream for restaurants, food and beverage producers, grocery stores. Office waste sources includes things like paper waste, electronics, furniture. Construction and demolition makes a large chunk of the total waste that goes to the landfill. As you will see in a few slides, some of the key drivers include renovations, demolitions, and repairs. Electronic waste is another highly valuable waste stream, but unfortunately, with tech upgrades and damaged equipment, we see a lot of that ending up in the landfills. And then we have for businesses in manufacturing, automotive repair, dry cleaning, or even beauty salons, the waste generated is generally deemed hazardous for humans and the environment, so it needs special recycling or disposal methods to mitigate the harm. Textile waste is another huge contributor. Old fabrics, clothing, and unusable materials end up in the landfill. Manufacturing byproducts, such as scrap metal or sawdust, is another waste stream, which is highly valuable but unfortunately ends up in the landfill. Organic waste from regular yard maintenance, garden trimming, clean wood, or biodegradable packaging made from plant-based materials is another source that not only crowds our landfill, but if you don't dispose it properly, it also releases methane as it decomposes. Finally, we have contaminated water and liquid waste, which, if not treated properly, can end up polluting our waterways. To better understand the impact of our waste or its end of life, I want to share the waste composition study at the Squamish landfill. But it is also important to know um, that Squamish landfill has only 45 years of capacity remaining, and building a new landfill or a transfer station will be costly. The financial burden of a new landfill will impact landfill users, so reducing waste and making sure recyclables and reusables are kept out is important so that we don't take up any valuable space that benefits the entire community. Here we have broken down the waste composition by sectors. So first we have single family residential, which makes up about a quarter of the total waste. Multifamily units make up 17%, while ICI or industrial commercial institutional sector makes up the most with 40%, and construction and demolition sector makes up 11% of the total waste that enters the landfill. And for the purpose of this webinar, we look further into the ICI and construction and demolition sectors, which are where most of the businesses contribute their waste. Now that we have discussed some of the largest waste streams, let's see what the real picture looks like at the local landfill. ICI garbage was primarily composed of organics at 38.6%, paper at 17.1%, and plastic at almost 14%. The organic waste included wood, yard waste, and food waste. Plastic waste included durable plastics such as fences, pylons, tarps, film and flex packaging, and products like pallet wrap or bubble wrap, rigid plastic packaging such as food containers, and single-use items such as plastic retail bags, takeout cups and containers, straws, and utensils. The paper waste was mostly composed of recyclable paper and food soiled paper. And as shown in the other pie chart on the right, about 72.5% of the waste has potential to be diverted from landfill through recycling, composting, or being used as fuel in a cogeneration plant. So lots of opportunity. Construction and demolition garbage was primarily composed of organics at 46.7%, building material at 33.3%, and paper at 7.9%. In the construction and demolition, the organic waste included wood waste, including landfill wood waste, cogeneration wood, and compostable wood. The building material waste included rigid asphalt products, rock, sand, dirt, ceramic, porcelain, masonry, insulation, and pipes. And the paper waste was mostly composed of recyclable paper. And again, about 57.2% of this waste has potential to be diverted from landfill through depot drop-off like roofing shingles, concrete, PVC piles, insulation, and piping. All of these can be dropped off and recycled. Composting can be used for some of the wood products, and the rest can be used as fuel in a cogeneration plant. So with that information and example in mind, we can now answer this question. Why should you understand your waste? Well, to begin with, there are cost implications. Efficient waste management can reduce disposal costs and improve profitability, or even inspire you to create a new revenue stream. There's regulatory compliance. So in terms of Squamish, businesses must comply with municipal, provincial, and federal bylaws. This include the Demolition Waste Diversion Bylaw, Solid Waste Utilities Bylaw, Single-Use Items Reduction Bylaw, and the Provincial Plastics Regulation. And if you are curious to learn more and get more information on these bylaws, they can be found on the squamish.ca website under garbage and waste diversion. And then there are sustainability goals. So reducing waste aligns with environmental goals and can really attract eco-conscious customers. If we reach the diversion potential for the waste streams that we just looked at, we will also be able to extend the lifespan of our local landfill. And finally, waste has value. Waste is a resource that holds value. Most type of waste contains materials that can be extracted and then used again, reducing the need for virgin resources. There are many companies that are rethinking their waste streams and transforming them into new product. An example from the food and beverage sector, we have yogurt manufacturers, and when they undergo the product of yogurt manufacturing, they create whey as a byproduct, and instead of sending that to the landfill or composting it, it can be processed into whey protein, which is commonly used in protein bars, shakes, and supplements. And we'll be sharing more examples. But first, you need to understand your waste. And to understand your waste, there are many different ways to do that. A waste audit is a systematic process to identify and quantify the waste generated by your business. The goal is to understand the types and amounts of waste processed, assess waste management practices, and also identify opportunities for waste reduction and more sustainable handling. At the end of this webinar, you will find a link to a free waste audit resource and a waste diversion tracking tool as well. So I would encourage everyone to take a look at that and use them. And once you've conducted your waste audit and have a better understanding of the waste produced, review your disposal practices. Is there a way to divert waste away from the landfill? Are all available recycling systems in place? Stay ahead of the curve by researching local laws mentioned in some of the previous slides and upcoming regulations as well. This does not mean that you go and dispose all the carpet from a recent renovation project before a ban comes into place, but instead finding alternatives for the future. And implement a waste hierarchy. So find ways to reduce waste in the first place, then see if there's any reuse potential, redistribute it to the local community if you don't need it. Maybe there's a company that reconditions some of the items that you are trying to get rid of. And then finally, recycling can be used as your last option. So once you're done assessing your waste, you will find that your business or organization has different levels of control over each of your waste streams. And you can use this sphere of influence to determine which ones to address first, starting with the ones that you have control over and working your way out. So under control, it's purchasing. An example could be purchasing items that are not wrapped in plastic, or if that's not an option, then reusing the plastic wrap for fragile items that you are shipping or sending out. Under influence, you can provide employees with training on proper disposal and sorting of different waste streams so that there's no contamination. Everything that can be recycled is being recycled. And finally, there's advocate. So you can advocate to your suppliers to stop using a plastic wrap on your pallets or transition to a different reusable material. And note that streams that fall in the adapt and advocate category are still really important. For example, if you have more customers advocating to their suppliers, they are more likely to act on it and make change. So again, why is assessing your waste important? In addition to reducing your environmental footprint, this can also help your business identify opportunities to cut costs and find new potential revenue streams. Here is a 4-step approach on how to properly assess your waste. And in the following slides, we will walk through an example of how a business that we worked with used this model successfully. So this is an example of a business that we worked with, and I'll be walking through the table and explaining the process. So this business assessed their waste and found that wooden pallets and offcuts were the biggest waste stream and taking up the most space in their garbage bin. These pallets came from suppliers, um, and the offcuts were from their own manufacturing process. So that's next to waste origin in the table. So right now, the wood is going straight to the landfill at the end of life, and it takes up about a third of the dumpster space. So if they pay $600 a month on their disposal services, the wood part of it costs them about $200 plus their employees' time to sort the waste because they don't have a proper waste diversion station. So if they were to use the five circular economy loopback system framework that we talked about, um, they identified different opportunities. So in under the reduce section, they found that reducing the number of products purchased using pallets by advocating to suppliers could be a way to reduce their waste. Also being more precise with their measurements so that there are less offcuts. Under reuse and repair, they could reuse the wood to create a waste diversion station, and as a result, employees also won't have to spend too much time sorting through the waste. They could refurbish the wood and create new products from it, redistributing them by offering redistributing the wood by offering free pickups to the community, or finding a local company or organization that collects those pallets for free. And finally, looking for local pallet recycling companies. So now they're trying to change the way that they think about their waste and identify opportunities for creating value from their biggest waste stream. So some internal value add opportunities included using wood to create the wood waste diversion station that we talked about, which would reduce the amount of space that the pallets are using in their dumpster. And an external opportunity would be to start offering a new product line that is entirely made from those wood offcuts and pallets and even helps them generate some revenue. And so what is the potential value of these internal and external value add opportunities? So if incorporated, these value add opportunities could save them $150 in disposal fees, as well as they can make up to $500 in revenue from selling their new products made from the waste that they generated. So now with those opportunities identified, they can move to step 3 and 4, that is prioritizing opportunities and taking action. So to accomplish actions 1 and 2, which is collecting usable offcuts and building a waste diversion station, they will need the operations manager to take on the task and organize coming up with the product line and basically doing project management work. And to accomplish action 3, that is advertise free wood pickups, they will need their communications team to put out the message on their social media and even maybe put up some signage outside the premises, letting people know that they can pick up the wood for free. So this business chose to go ahead for in this specific example with action number 3 for now because maybe they had a busy season or some capacity constraints, but even with action 3, which did not require much effort from the team and was implemented immediately, they saw a 50% reduction in the wood that was being sent to the landfill. So 50% of the wood was being picked up by the local community. So that would be their success metric. So yeah, hopefully that case study inspires you to take a look at your waste streams from a different perspective than usual. Yeah, keep in mind that innovation and thinking outside the box are key when rethinking and assessing your waste. And there's other examples of companies within BC that are doing just that. A company based in BC saw opportunity in used wooden chopsticks and turned a waste product into a thriving business. So far, they've transformed over 400,000 kilograms of waste into beautiful high-end products, as you can see on the slide, including cutting boards, tabletops, and flooring. They've recycled over 137 million chopsticks. That statistic was by the end of 2023. And there's another clothing company based in BC which saw great potential in textile waste. Um, they used post-consumer waste to create new high-quality products. So they used these fabrics from the landfill, they sorted them by color, shredded, washed, carded, and spun them into new fabrics and created a new fabric and used plastic from old oyster farm trays to create the shirt buttons. And since they've started, they've recycled over 900,000 pounds of textile waste into new clothes. So yeah, these are just a couple of examples of companies who took waste and used it like a resource. This might not be, feasible for so for someone who's already in business. So that's why we have Tessa joining us now, who works at a local cafe and donut shop to share what they have done to reduce their waste and become a more sustainable business.
Hello, my name is Tessa Roderick, and I am an owner of a coffee shop in Squamish, BC. We are, yeah, a local coffee shop. We are all local owners as well. We all live in Squamish. And we started our cafe about 4.5 years ago. We've been here, yeah, for just over 4 years, and we're really excited about what Squamish is becoming and how it's growing. And we're doing, yeah, a few things a little bit differently to help reduce waste in our business. And so some of the things that we're doing is we're prioritizing sourcing local ingredients. And so with that, we change our menu every month and we focus on sourcing ingredients that are local. Kind of between, I would say, the Fraser Valley and Pemberton is where we get a decent amount of our ingredients in the spring, summer, and fall. And we're always kind of looking for ways that we can incorporate different ingredients, even like carrots from Pemberton. We use rhubarb from a farm in Langley. We like to work with some of the farmers that also come up to the Squamish Farmers Market as well to get fresh herbs. We get our berries from Mandare Farms in the summer when they're available. We also tend to get a lot of their berries in the off season that they freeze as well, which is a really great option for us. And so, yeah, we're just really excited to be able to work with a lot of really great local businesses to be able to get ingredients for our donuts and our syrups and our coffees. And it's been really fun just working with a lot of new people and not just kind of sticking with one supplier that gets all of their ingredients overseas. And so, yeah, that's been something we've been trying to focus on. And every year we try and kind of dive a bit deeper into getting even more local. And so that's been really fun. We're hoping to work with Squamish Can and their community farm as well to get some ingredients for this summer, which will be really exciting. And then another thing that we're working, yeah, we're kind of started, I would say we started this program probably about 2 or 3 years ago when COVID kind of slowed down and people were allowed to bring their to-go mugs. But we, I think, are just starting to focus a bit more on pushing this program a little bit more, trying to promote it a bit better so that people know that we're doing this. But we have a bring your own mug or container discount program. So if you bring a to-go mug to our coffee shop, you will get 10% off your beverage. And then same goes for any donuts or baked goods. So if you bring your own container, that could be like a Rubbermaid plastic container. It could be a reusable bag. It could be even one of our boxes that you've previously taken home. We'll also give you 10% off on kind of whatever fits into that container. And so that is actually, I would say, kind of taking off a bit more recently, which is really exciting. We've had a lot of people bring in their mugs for many years, but now I feel like the containers is kind of taking off as well. And so that's really exciting just to see people bringing in their own well-used mugs and containers and just being able to reduce some of the single-use packaging that we have. And then with our packaging, we work with a company in Ontario called Georgette, and they basically purchase carbon offsets for all of the packaging that we buy from them. And so all of our packaging, for the most part, we can either recycle it, compost it. The only thing that we can't recycle or compost is our pastry bags, just because Squamish doesn't have a facility for kind of the bags that we use, is they do have a wax lining to make them grease proof. And so those are the only things that we have to put in the landfill. But other than that, our cups, we can rinse and recycle them. The lids, we can rinse and recycle. All of our boxes can either go in the compost or the recycling, depending on if there's grease on them or not. And then because of the packaging being carbon offset, it just gives us a little bit of a better feeling, kind of putting so much packaging into the world. As a coffee shop, we do have a lot of single-use packaging, and it's something we have always thought about, something we're always trying to kind of get away from, but also making it approachable for everyone. It can be really hard to be in a tourist town and have a lot of people come through here. And if you don't have the single-use packaging, then yeah, I think you probably also lose a lot of business from people if they can't get their coffee to go or their donut in a bag or a box. And so, yeah, we're definitely very open to changing our packaging, and we're always working with the company in Ontario as well to try and see if we can change anything, if we can use any different materials, if there's different standards that kind of come up or arise from Recycle BC or GFL, who we work with locally as well. And so, yeah, it's been really nice to work with them, and them being the experts in the packaging and waste department, being able to, yeah, just give us insight and advice on what would work best for what we're working with. Yeah, and then we can go to the next slide. Perfect. So, yeah, and then also with waste, so depending on the day, we might have a lot of donuts left over or some baking. And so all of the things that we have left over from the day, we donate mainly to Under One Roof, which is just our local kind of shelter that is really close to us. And so they provide meals to basically anyone who needs a fresh meal. And so we will bring our donuts at the end of the day to them, and they kind of use them however they see fit. So if it's kind of reheating them for breakfast, if it's like if we have unglazed donuts, sometimes they'll make them into like bread pudding or French toast. They are very creative with the leftover donuts, which is really fun. And so I would say the majority of our donuts will go to Under One Roof, but we do also work with the Squamish Foundry as well, which is our youth center here, and Squamish SAR as well. So kind of depending on the season, I would say SAR probably picks up donuts once a week in the kind of the spring and summer for their training nights. And then the Squamish Foundry also, I would say, kind of comes maybe once or twice a month, maybe, and comes and picks up donuts for their youth as well. And so that's just something that's really fun, that we can kind of share our donuts with the community, making sure that we're not composting them, giving them another life. And then repurposing waste. So this is something we're also kind of looking into a bit more, and we're pretty excited to kind of dive a bit deeper into saving our our milk, basically, well, yeah, a coffee shop usually wastes a decent amount of milk from steaming it. And then if there's any left over, it usually goes down the drain. And so we're kind of looking into ways where we can repurpose the steamed milk into making other kind of seasonal beverages by milk washing them. So this is something that's very new, something we're pretty excited about to try and just even limit more of our waste. A lot of times we'll also do latte competitions and we'll take all of our lattes, we'll put them into just big bins, we'll make them into pastry cream, and then we'll put that into donuts as well. And so we definitely want to limit kind of as much waste as we can. And it's really exciting just to see how innovative people are and how creative they are. And so we're kind of just always thinking of new ways that we can reduce all of our waste, and just make it, yeah, into a waste-free place. And then, yeah, so composting and recycling all of our other waste items. So we also, probably about 6 or 7 months ago, we switched our garbage can location and made it a compost bin. And this has made a huge difference in our business. I would say the amount of waste that goes into the landfill from our business is maybe one like medium-sized garbage bag a day, which I think is huge for any business, especially in the food industry. And so basically everything we have on site we can compost. So if that's a donut that falls on the floor, we can compost it. Our parchment paper is compostable. Our knives and forks and like all of our utensils are compostable. Um, yeah, and so we do have a very small amount of landfill waste that we actually put into the landfill at the end of the day, which feels really good. And that has been, yeah, just an exciting change, just moving, honestly, just moving a bin, and just getting some brown paper bags that we will put our compost in has, yeah, made a really big difference. So that's really great. And then, yeah, all of basically everything that we can compost or recycle, we do. And then anything that we can't goes obviously into the landfill. But yeah, we're very excited kind of for all the little changes that we're doing. And it's nice to be able just to kind of start small and grow from there. I think sometimes it can be really daunting, trying to limit waste and reduce waste in a business, but it's honestly, you can just start really small and just make one change and then just keep making more small changes. And yeah, you can make it happen. Thank you.
Finally, we wanted to leave you with a few resources that you can use to audit your general or food waste. If you are already taking steps to divert your waste, use the waste diversion tracking tool to accurately measure your progress. These are free to download at www.projectzero.ca/waste audits. And once again, big thank you to the District of Squamish and the Province of BC's Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program for making this webinar series possible. Thanks again for watching this webinar and have a great rest of your day.